and welcome to Spotlight Net TV. My name is Jennifer Nash, and thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're privileged to have in our midst our guest from the US. We've got Deirdre Breaknridge. I will let her introduce herself now. Hi, Deirdre.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much. Well, I'll just say I'm Deirdre Breaknridge. I'm an author, a speaker, a LinkedIn learning instructor, a podcaster, and I'm also a communication strategist.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're joining all the way on Eastern Standard Time, which is so completely different from out here in London. So we're so very excited to talk to you today. And to me today, I wanted to speak to you and find out about your career. So can you just briefly just give us a snapshot of what your career has been like up until now?
Oh my gosh, my career just has been so amazing, and I'm tremendously grateful. I mean, I guess I could say I've always been a storyteller and a writer at heart. I think my fourth grade teacher knew this. Not to bring it too far back, but she had me writing little books when I was in fourth grade, and it wasn't until I won this essay contest in high school that my guidance counselor said, "Oh my goodness, you need to either go into journalism or public relations." And I chose PR. And of course, in PR, it's all storytelling and relationship building. And also somewhere along the way, I just also realized I love to share the stories and educate along the way. So it's just been an amazing journey.
Mm-hmm. So PR educating aspect of it, which is really why we were so attracted. I was particularly so attracted to your profile because, you know, this is what it's all about. This is what, when you become a thought leader, you eventually get to a point where you just want to impart your knowledge to the people coming behind you. So would you say, is that something that you're doing a lot of these days, or it's something that you've done always?
So I guess you could say, you know, you have a build in your career. You get to a certain point where, you know, sure, you're telling stories for your clients and you're being recognized, but then also you sort of get your own, flow going, where I realized I could write books, even when people in my family said, "You don't know how to write a business book." And I said, "Well, I've got the opportunity. I'm going to do it." And then it's a build. And the more that you can be open and transparent and kind of help the people around you, they then, and this is PR at its best, they then start sharing for you. And everything just keeps growing and getting bigger and better. And it's progressed along that path.
Wow, amazing. So the elephant in the room, obviously, the gender disparity in the PR industry, it's very common. I can speak for the UK. But would you say, is that the same situation in that landscape in the US? Do you have a lot of women in PR or creative positions, or is that something that is still a fight?
Yeah, so lots of women in PR, but if you were to look at the number of women who are CEOs in Fortune 500 or Fortune 100 companies, well, that's going to pale in comparison and be a tiny fraction of the positions that men hold, as well as the salaries. So I think whether you're in the United States or you're over in Europe, you're seeing about the same.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't mean that we're not standing up and talking about it and fighting for it, because always raising awareness is so important, especially among the younger generation of women who are coming into PR.
Yeah, you just preempted that, because I was thinking with the Me Too movement, and obviously now we've got also the Black Lives Matter movement, both of them which are fighting for either inclusivity or they're fighting for diversity. And so with the likes of Boz St. John, she's one of the young CMOs in the United States working, like you said, C-suite level, Fortune 500 company. She just recently got appointed by Netflix after working for the likes of Apple as well as Uber and stuff. So would you say that the voices are being heard now? Would you say that we're even beginning to dent that big iceberg that is in our way as women?
So I think there is a big iceberg, but yes, all of these voices count. So I'll just say that the more that we can find the energy together and to stand up and to share what's right and the direction that this country and your country and all the countries need to go in with respect to DEI, now is the time. And I think that people are listening. I really do. With all the issues going on, more people are listening, which is good. I will also point out that a lot of these issues are systemic in the infrastructure, and that is something that is really important that will need to change. So it's not even if the leaders at the top are listening, it's changing the process within the organization or wherever. That's going to take a lot of work.
So it's been such a long time, though, Deirdre, since suffragettes and all that stuff, the women fought for the right to vote, the right to work and stuff like that. Do you think that it's just time now that we shouldn't even be having this conversation and be moving on? Case in point, people like yourself, you've gone ahead and started your own business. Do you think that probably that's the only way out to be heard? Because I've seen and spoken to a lot of successful women that have actually, instead of saying, let me wait to be called to the table, they've gone ahead and cut the wood and created their own table to sit on. Do you think that's probably the way out of this? Is that the best route?
That is such an interesting question, Jennifer, and the fact that we're reliving what has been going on and on and on for years. I can't even understand why change doesn't occur as quickly as we want it to. Definitely becoming the entrepreneur. And here's the good news. So the millennial generation, they are a generation of an entrepreneurial mindset. So this is the generation that just might be creating the companies that are going to change. Now, there is a shift also going on because I don't know if you ever read the book, The Future of Men by Jack Myers, but Jack came on my show, Women Worldwide, and discussed how there is a shift of millennial men and how they're feeling about what's going on with women shifting in power and them trying to find their place as well. So I think you are going to see a difference with these younger voices understanding who they are, where they want to be, the support that they need, and we will see momentum. Whether it is in, there's a lot more mentoring and sponsoring going on within corporations, which is good news, a lot of women leadership programs, and DEI is certainly raised the awareness. But I love what you said about entrepreneurs and doing what they believe is right. That is a way to create change. New companies, new thoughts, new process.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, again, the reason why I created Wired Women. It's specifically to zone in and hone into the women, trailblazing women like yourself, to tap into your power tools, to understand your mindset and how you came to be in this position, how you just said, okay, enough is enough. I'm not going to wait to be called. I'm not going to wait for that interview to happen. I'm not going to wait for that boardroom invitation to happen. I am going to be the CEO of my own company. How can you just personally, on a personal level, can you tell me what sort of mindset do you have to build that and to get to the point where you're at with your company?
So I think you have to have an I can do anything mindset, belief in yourself, even though, I've always had mentors to guide me along my career. I have really relied on this notion of I know I can do it when I feel strongly about something, and that passion and that energy is then met with the energy of other like-minded people who make things happen. So I'm sure every entrepreneur gets to a point of, or they're within a company and they say, no, I don't like this. I don't accept the way things are going. Let me do it myself. That is a pivotal moment. For me, I decided to become an entrepreneur. It was interesting when I had that moment of, oh my gosh, I'm running somebody else's company for them and I'm doing it their way. I could do it my own way. And that's when I launched my first agency. And that was after 10 years of being in other people's agencies.
Wow, amazing. So I see again the theme that keeps coming up every time I've spoken to you, amazing women. So the theme is about having enough and the I can do better attitude. I really love that. So what would be that specific attribute that you would want to share? Where I know that you at some point you had that pivotal moment that is like the time or the moment of reckoning when you said, I've had enough. But I'd like to know, what does that actually feel like? Is it like a gut feeling? Does it come does it come like in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. you just wake up in a sweat and you're like, this is it? Or how did it come about? How does one recognize it?
So I think I recognized it. This may sound counterintuitive, but I recognized it when my family and the people around me were so shocked that I was going to do this. So in other words, I was getting my MBA because I felt like I would always run somebody else's company, which I was. Yeah. And when I then announced, guess what? I'm going to launch my own business. I want my own PR and communications company. I think everybody's jaws just dropped because it was just such a, they said, who's an entrepreneur in our family? We don't have entrepreneurs in our family. Where did you come from? So the more I got that and the more my friends said, are you sure? That actually led me to say, yeah, I am. Because with all the pushback, I still felt so strongly. And that was waking up in the middle of the night and feeling like, yeah, this is it. And that was every time somebody said something, feeling like, oh, yeah, I really want this.
So I think that the feeling that I get from you is that being an entrepreneur means that when somebody says no, you dig your heels deeper.
It made me explore it within myself more. Rather than, it's very, very easy to listen to a no. I think what I did was, why? Why? Tell me why. Why do you think that? And that is something that I do now because, Jennifer, look at all the conversations going on out there on social media or even within families around politics and what's going on around coronavirus. There's different opinions. And rather than going along with the mob personality or changing, or shifting, I want to know why, just why. And then I'm able to make an informed decision.
That's a quality that I like about most women that I've chosen, but mostly even especially you now, I'm talking to you. I like that quality of challenging the status quo. So not going with the flows, really pretty much carving your own path and saying, you know what, I'm going to do this, even if it means being a trailblazer, even if it means being lonely. But on the flip side, there might be a loneliness or a fallback to that. What would you say is a disadvantage of you going against the flow or being a trailblazer? Is it lonely at the top? Is it lonely along the way? And how have you managed and how have you coped with that?
Yeah, so it can be lonely, and you do get a lot of pushback and things that are said to you where you have to have a tough skin because other people don't necessarily say to you, well, why? Why? Even when, here's a perfect example. I owned my agency, and I was very much getting into PR 2.0, which meant more of the digital and the social, right? Social media was on the forefront. I was looking at this, Jennifer, in 2003, when most public relations people didn't even realize what was going on. And I started to do a lot of research, and then it took a few years, but I wrote my book, PR 2.0, new media, new audiences, new tools. And I remember being at a conference, and a lot of professors came up to me. I was in somebody else's booth doing a book signing, and I had professors come up to me and say, "You're kind of a traitor." Like, you're kind of saying we're a bunch of marketers. You're kind of taking away from what PR really does. And, I tried to explain my point, whether it fell on deaf ears or not, but it did. It felt very lonely, and it felt like, people are angry and feathers are ruffled.
Yeah.
But somehow I knew public relations was drastically changing. And then I wrote Putting the Public Back in Public Relations, and people started to get on board with that book. Yeah. So I just dug my heels in and kept going.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, let them follow, and then some people will fall off and some people will follow. That's an amazing way of putting it. Thank you so much for that, Deirdre. So obviously, being a thought leader, because I consider you as a thought leader. I don't know if you consider yourself that, but obviously you've authored some books, you've done lessons on LinkedIn, you've done it all, and you've got more than 10,000 hours of experience. So in my mind, you are a thought leader. What is it, the one advice that you would give somebody, an entrepreneur that is coming behind us? And I also just want to hit pause on that question and just rewind a little bit to a point where you were talking about millennials being more assertive in becoming entrepreneurs and stuff like that. I just wanted to kind of rewind on that, because my question that was going on in my mind, is it millennials or is it Gen Z? Because obviously millennials are just hitting, the youngest millennial right now is about 25 years old. Correct. So I just wanted to kind of like just circle back onto that and ask you to clarify on that before we move on to the next question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's Gen Z too. Yeah. So, I did a study on millennials for over a year, but I'm also looking at Gen Z and the behaviors, a lot of the passion, the causes, standing up for things, the way that they don't live to work, they work, they want to live.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of similarities. There are some differences in how vocal they are and about their reaction to certain things within their organizations. But I do think it is about younger generations.
Period. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fair enough. Okay, so I guess so now my current question was about what sort of advice would you give to somebody who's coming up into the entrepreneur landscape? What would be your one or maybe two pieces of advice that you would share with them?
So I would say, as much as I was trusting gut and digging in, always listen. Yeah. I believe that as an entrepreneur, you're a problem solver, right? So the best entrepreneurs can identify that there's something missing out there. There's a big problem that needs to be solved. So listening comes in so many different ways. It's what people are saying. It's also the actions that they're doing. So keep an eye on that. And I even listen, I can tell a comfort level with body language well, I think is really super important. So don't ever stop listening. And, especially I'll say this to the younger generation, don't feel like you have to jump and speak first. You're better off taking it all in, because if you can actively listen, you'll be able to prepare a better response, have that problem solved in such a way that everybody's going to love what you're sharing, because you're really, really helping them. So I would say listening, of course, is big. And then I also just want to mention something else. The people, so if you have a strong passion, the people around you really count. I don't know if you read Napoleon Hill's book. He wrote it in 1925, The Law of Success. He talks about the mastermind and the harmony of minds, and when minds come together that are in harmony, we can do so much more. So I would encourage entrepreneurs with their passion and their energy to find the passion, energy, and harmony, and that is going to take you so much further.
I'm so encouraged to hear that, because obviously that's what creating synergy is, what Wired Women is all about. And obviously I feel so excited to actually hear that. I should be taking that advice myself in, and it just excites me to listen and have these conversations with women like you, because I benefit as much as I am doing it to create content for our viewers. I am the one who's so enriched by these conversations, because I always have such great takeaways from each sit down that I've had. So on that note, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go on. Much as I'd love to continue sitting and leaning in, I could listen to you forever. I would like for our viewers to know where they would be able to find you, where they can find your content and your wisdom, your pool of wisdom that you've shared just in the nugget here. Could you please share that with our viewers?
Oh, yes. So thank you. You can go to Breaknridge.com and you will find all of my work, my books. There's information of my LinkedIn courses there, and what I do with my communications consulting. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn. I encourage all of you to do that. And I'm also on Twitter. I'm at Breaknridge. I love to answer questions. And of course, Women Worldwide, that's my podcast. We're on YouTube and iTunes as well.
Well, thank you so much, Deirdre. It's been such a treat having you on the show today. I look forward to having you back again, just so we can just continue to explore and discover what makes you tick and what makes you a sustainable, wired woman. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. This was great, Jennifer. I really enjoyed it.